Mick Foley is an anomaly. In an era of wrestling dominated by giants or performers possessing a perfectly chiseled body, he did not boast a supreme physique, nor was he a masterful tactician in the ring. Still, Foley is among the best ever to grace a wrestling ring with his presence. But how? Firstly, his character work, which saw him portray not one, but 3 major gimmicks during his career, was superb. Secondly, his rare ability to be unfazed by the most dangerous tasks, whether falling from a 20-foot cell or taking a painfully sick bump, made him stand out from the rest of the locker room. Join us now as we examine the anatomy of the hardcore legend, Mick Foley. Starting out as a jobber. It's not uncommon for future stars to begin their wrestling journey as a jobber, which is essentially acting as easy fodder for an established performer. Many of the big names in the industry have, at some point, worked as enhancement talents in their career, and it was no different for Foley, who competed in the WWF Wrestling Challenge and Superstars of Wrestling in the second half of the 80s as a jobber. He would go by the moniker of Jack Foley, or sometimes Nick Foley, during this time. The budding performer collided with some established wrestlers in this stint, in the ilk of Kamala and the British Bulldogs in a tag team bout. However, as is often the case with performers who get squashed week in and week out, he was not associated with any major wrestling promotion. Instead, he made waves in various independent promotions, like Universal Wrestling Federation, Continental Wrestling Association, and World Class Wrestling Association throughout the 80s. Initial WCW Run and AJPW. The end of the 80s saw Foley making a major breakthrough in his wrestling career, as he started performing for the World Championship Wrestling promotion in 1989. He went by the character of Cactus Jack in the Atlanta-based promotion. This gimmick showcased Foley's daredevil side, as he regularly performed maneuvers that put his body on the line to entertain the audience. Whether it be taking sick bumps in matches or performing gravity-defying stunts, the Cactus Jack persona wasn't afraid to go the extra mile. During his first run with WCW, he collided with future legends, such as the Steiner brother duo of Scott Steiner and Rick Steiner. Funnily enough, Foley was still not under contract with the Turner Broadcasting Run promotion. However, he impressed the company's decision-makers with his swashbuckling wrestling style to finally get a contract. Still, if he thought his first run with WCW would be long and fruitful, he was wrong, as he left the promotion abruptly in June 1990 because of a conflict with Booker Ole Anderson. After a brief stint in the American independent circuit, Foley arrived at the Japanese shore and competed in the Tokyo-based All Japan Pro Wrestling promotion. He locked horns with some of the all-time greats of the business while there, such as Andre the Giant, Johnny Ace, and Terry Funk. It was not a bad way to announce himself to the wrestling business. Anyways, his Japanese adventure ended shortly after, and he returned to U.S. soil in the first part of 1991, resuming his association with independent promotions UWF and the Philadelphia-based Tri-State Wrestling, WCW again, and joining ECW. Foley again impressed the WCW stakeholders with his unique wrestling style as he was signed back by the Atlanta-based company in 1991. During his second run, he was booked strongly, even challenging for the promotion's flagship title, the WCW Heavyweight Championship, a handful of time. However, he had to wait till 1994 to win his first gold with the organization, when he won the WCW World Tag Team Championship that year, teaming with Kevin Sullivan. Surprisingly, it was the only strap that Foley won during his time with WCW. Nevertheless, the Cactus Jack and Sullivan team overcame some established teams like Nasty Boy and Harlem Heat to retain their gold, but lost it to the duo of Pretty Wonderful. He left the Turner Broadcasting promotion shortly after to join Extreme Championship Wrestling. The Philadelphia-based promotion's hardcore and edgy style suited Cactus Jack perfectly, as he seemed at home with the amount of violence on the show. He frequently challenged then ECW World Champion Sandman for the title, coming close occasionally, but never really winning the belt. Apart from that, his unusual team-up with another hardcore wrestling pioneer, Tommy Dreamer, was the highlight of his career with the Paul Heyman-led promotion. Foley won the ECW World Tag Team Gold twice, teaming up with his prodigy, Mikey Whipwreck. The wrestler also became Jack's opponent in his last ECW match in 1996, when it became apparent that Foley was quitting the organization in favor of WWF. Foray into WWE as Mankind. After toiling for nearly a decade in the wrestling scene, Mick Foley finally joined WWE in 1996. However, as the Stamford-based promotion likes to repackage its wrestler, he did so, not with his usual gimmick, the adventurous Cactus Jack, but he was given a new character of the deranged Mankind. Reportedly, the gimmick was initially planned to be even darker than the end product, but the wrestling juggernaut decided to tone it down for TV audiences. Foley's first appearance on WWE programming came in the Monday Night Raw episode after WrestleMania 12, defeating Bob Holly. The Vince McMahon-led company wasted little time and immediately booked the deranged one against the resident deadman of WWE, The Undertaker. The two were not straightaway pitted in a TV or PPV match. Instead, they fought each other in a series of dark matches. It wasn't until the 1996 King of the Ring PPV that these two unusual performers locked horns in front of a worldwide audience. Mankind picked up the W after an accidental interference by Taker's manager, Paul Bearer, cost him the mouth-watering clash. Next up, Foley competed against the Phenom in the first ever Boiler Room Brawl match, wherein the competitor who exited the Boiler Room and reached the squared circle first was to be declared the winner. Additionally, the match rules warranted that the winner would be the performer who took the urn from Bearer. After brutalizing each other all through the arena, it seemed like Taker was primed for the win. However, in a shocking turn, Bearer refused to hand him the urn, handing it to Mankind instead, giving him the victory and also his managerial services. After this, Foley briefly contested for Shawn Michaels' WWF Championship, but wasn't successful in his quest and reverted to his rivalry with Taker. The two collided in the first ever Buried Alive match at the In Your House Buried Alive event, which Mankind won with the help of other villainous wrestlers. The never-ending tussle continued at the 1996 Survivor Series PPV, which saw Taker prevailing over his fierce adversary. The In Your House Revenge of the Taker event saw the feud continue, this time for the Phenom's WWF Championship, which he ended up retaining. This was the last time Taker and Foley faced each other before their historic 1998 clash. More on that later. Decoding the Mankind character. The 90s saw WWE experiment with the gimmicks of its wrestlers. The days of performers having their entire personas based on a particular occupation were slowly being transitioned on, in favor of supernatural or sometimes eerie characters. Take, for example, the successful Undertaker gimmick that began in 1990, or his kayfabe half-brother Kane, who debuted in 1997. Demonic or maniacal gimmicks were the new way to go for the Stanford-based promotion. Hence, when WWE introduced the Mankind character in 1996, it was as per their strategy to introduce more and more atypical superstars to its roster. The wrestler looked straight out of an asylum, always donned a patchy leather mask with minimal to no pattern, and wore shabby clothing sometime. Other time, he wore a white shirt and, to make matters odder, wore a slick black tie to complete the look. Mankind's catchphrase, that has since become iconic, was, "Have a nice day." How large was Mick Foley? At the time when Mick Foley started his WWF career, the wrestlers employed by the company possessed a certain body type based on their size. In that regard, the hardcore legend did not fit into any particular mold, as he was never truly in the best of shapes. Still, what was Foley's highest weight during the peak of his career? Well, he was 13 pounds shy of the 300 mark, amassing 287 pounds weight. Regarding height, Foley stood at a decent 6 feet 2 inches. He has admitted to wearing lifts in his boots to increase his stature and to look more in place against opponents much larger than him. There isn't any exact measurements for his bicep, but it wasn't the best of his features either. What about chest size then? Again, there's no reliable information around it as well. The iconic HIAC moment. How can two wrestlers who've had countless battles in the past make their matchup one of the most talked about encounters in the entire wrestling history? Well, it's almost impossible to achieve that, unless, of course, you are Mankind, and you have the special ability to take insane bumps, one after another, and you do not know how to stay down. That's what happened when The Undertaker took him on in the 1998 King of the Ring PPV, in the dreaded Hell in a Cell match. First, the action occurred atop the cell, and both Taker and Foley exchanged blows. This was followed by arguably the most iconic image from the rich history of WWE. The Phenom just straight up threw Mankind from the roof of the 20-foot-high cell onto the announcer's table, to the shock of everyone from the live audience to fans glued to the screen. The image of the deranged one in freefall lives rent-free in the minds of the wrestling fanatic. Foley was given immediate medical attention and was being taken to the back to assess his condition further. However, he somehow rose to his feet midway and climbed the cell structure again to confront Taker. This time, the dead man delivered a thunderous chokeslam to Mankind. However, unbeknownst to both, the structure's roof gave way, and he fell straight inside the ring, forming a crater where he fell. To make matters worse, A steel chair landed on his face during the impact, breaking some of his teeth. Thankfully, this ended one of the most dangerous displays ever seen on WWE programming. Foley suffered from a dislocated shoulder and jaw, a concussion, and bruised ribs as a result of his two separate falls. Actually, it's a miracle that he could walk after the clash. But everyone from fans to WWE management saw the insane lengths that the 290-pound wrestler was willing to go to entertain the fan, in turn, earning the respect of one and all. Unprecedented WWF Championship win. After wooing the audience with his never-say-die attitude in the ring, the next step in Foley's career with the global wrestling phenomenon was to go after the WWF Championship. And it seemed like the boss at the time, Vince McMahon, was on his side too, even naming him the first hardcore champion. McMahon pulled all the strings to ensure that Mankind reached the tournament's final for the vacant WWF Championship at the 1998 Survivor Series event. His opponent, The Rock. However, the former chairman betrayed the deranged one at the last instant, aiding the Great One in winning the gold. McMahon used his authority to reverse Foley's win over Rock at the 1998 Rock Bottom In Your House event to further keep him away from the title. However, Mankind went against all odds to beat the Brahma Bull at a pre-taped episode of Monday Night Raw that aired on January 4th, 1999. Such was the elation at his maiden WWF title win that all the babyfaces celebrated his monumental victory by lifting him to their shoulder. Foley went on to win the flagship title of the wrestling juggernaut on 2 more occasions. 3 faces of Foley in Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble event sees the road to WrestleMania start with it. And what makes this special night all the more interesting is the 30-man Royal Rumble match, from wrestlers returning just in time to compete in the bout to some legend reappearing in the event. But have you heard that a single superstar entered one version of the Royal Rumble match not once, not twice, but thrice? Well, as strange as it sounds, this happened in the 1998 Royal Rumble. In the 30-man match, Foley first appeared at the number 1 spot as Cactus Jack, before being eliminated by Chainsaw Charlie. The fans would have thought that it was a regular elimination. However, to everyone's surprise, he emerged at the number 16 spot, albeit under his Mankind character, to eliminate Charlie before being dumped by Goldust. That wasn't all, as the deranged one appeared at the number 28 spot under another one of his gimmicks, Dude Love. What's surprising was that even after 3 appearances in a single Rumble match, Foley wasn't able to win the damn thing. Nevertheless, he helped create an unforgettable moment in that year's 30-man match that seems unlikely to be repeated. His signature move, Foley frequently used the double-arm DDT move to down his adversary. Many times, he used the good-looking maneuver as his finisher. Another one of his famous in-ring submission holds was the mandible claw. The claw saw him insert his hand into an opponent's mouth, supposedly causing a painful nerve sensation. The Mankind gimmick saw him applying a variation of the claw, wherein he would wear a sock in his hand, which he called Mr. Socko, before inserting it into his adversary's mouth. The unusual hold has seen Foley dispatch a host of established main roster stars in the ilk of The Undertaker and The Rock. The former WWE Supremo, Mr. McMahon, has also been the victim of Mr. Socko on some occasions. Some of his toughest opponents. We've already talked about Foley's game-changing rivalry against The Undertaker. How about some of his other bitter rivals in the squared circle? The Rock has to be the obvious answer, as he and Foley just hit it out of the park whenever they were in the wrestling ring together, wrestling style-wise. Both the legendary performers had little to no similarity. However, they shared a level of in-ring chemistry that is the stuff of dreams, which was apparent during their numerous tussles for the WWF Championship. Not only as fierce rivals, but Foley and the Black Adam actor also shown as tag team partner, known as The Rock and Sock Connection, that won the tag team gold an impressive 3 times. Another superstar who pushed Foley to his limits was the rated R superstar Ed. Granted, the 2 adversaries belonged to different generations and faced each other in one-on-one competitions only once, in WrestleMania 22, in a hardcore match. But the 2 quite literally added the firepower to the show of shows that year. The ending of the match is still talked about to this day, wherein Edge speared Foley, who was standing at the ring apron, through a burning table kept at ringside, emphasizing Foley's commitment to entertain the fan, even if it meant putting himself on fire. Career highlight. We've already talked about Foley's 3 WWE Championship wins and his solitary WWE Hardcore Champion reign. What about his other title runs with the Stanford-based promotion? Well, he has held the tag team gold with the company on 8 different occasions. Foley's partners during these reigns, The Rock, was his tag team partner for 3 of these, while the Big Red Monster, Kane, was his partner for 2 tag team title runs. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Chainsaw Charlie, and Al Snow held the doubles gold with Mankind on one occasion each. Moreover, Foley has been the TNA World Heavyweight Champion and TNA Legends Champion once each. Foley's training regime. While the regular videos on this channel feature the various aspects of a wrestler's training regime, this one's a bit different. Here, we'll discuss the amazing weight loss journey that Mick Foley embarked on to compete in one last wrestling match. He posts constant updates on his Instagram page, discussing his efforts to reduce his weight. In a 2024 video, the former WCW star informed his followers that he has managed to reduce his mass, which was up to 372 pounds. To 348 pounds. He also claimed he still had a long way to go on his fitness journey. But everyone's got to start somewhere, right? Foley hasn't updated his fans about his current weight in a long time. However, looking at his social media handle, it feels like he is on the right track. His dietary plan. As part of Foley's efforts to lose weight, as mentioned in the previous section, he vowed to change his eating habits to aid his weight loss journey. This means that he would be aiming to reduce his calorie intake substantially. But how could he achieve that? Introducing a lot of lean protein, vegetables, and fruits to his diet would work wonders. At the same time, the hardcore legend would do well to steer clear of any sugary or processed foods, which are a doom to anyone's weight loss aspirations. Additionally, keeping an eye on the portions that Foley eats would be helpful. Moreover, proper hydration is the cornerstone for any diet to be successful. Transition to a part-time performer. Mick Foley initially retired from in-ring competition after competing at WrestleMania 16 in 2000 in a fatal four-way match. Still, he remained a part of WWE programming as the Raw commissioner until December of that year. Foley again donned the commissioner role for a brief stint in October 2001, ending in the Survivor Series PPV. After that, it wasn't till 2003 that he returned to WWE after a short spell in the independent promotion Ring of Honor. However, fans clamoring to see him in action had to wait till the 2004 Royal Rumble PPV, wherein he picked up a beef with then Evolution member Randy Orton. He famously reunited with The Rock at the WrestleMania 20 PPV to face Evolution in a handicap match. However, the unusual duo lost the encounter. Foley and Orton's rivalry came to a head in the next month's Backlash event, where he faced the third-generation wrestler in a hardcore match for his Intercontinental title. The highly acclaimed match that saw him competing under his Cactus Jack persona ended when a bloodied Orton performed his trademark RKO on Foley onto a baseball bat wrapped with barbed wire. Next up, his previously mentioned fiery rivalry with Edge was sandwiched between a real-life animosity turned into a storyline feud with Ric Flair. The Nature Boy prevailed in both encounters between the two veterans. Although Foley appeared on WWE programming many times after this, he competed there only a handful of times. Real-life friend. A wrestler is on the road for almost 300 days of the year. Hence, it's natural for them to become friends with some of their peers. The name of The Rock would surely be mentioned among some of Foley's best mates in the wrestling world. The fact that the two were the best of the adversaries between the ropes was partly thanks to the strong bond they shared off-screen. Goldberg is another major wrestling name who is said to be close to the hardcore legend. Speaking of hardcore, the pioneer of the extreme, Terry Funk, was said to be in the good books of Foley. In fact, Funk inducted him into the 2013 WWE Hall of Fame. Al Snow is another peer who was friends with the three-time WWE champion, TNA World Champion. It's no secret that the second half of the 2000s was the golden age of total non-stop action, as many WWE superstars flocked to the Orlando-based promotion and made it very watchable. Among them was Mick Foley, who first appeared in the company in 2008, announcing himself as the kayfabe co-owner of TNA, along with Jeff Jarrett. His debut with the organization was in a six-man tag team match against the Main Event Mafia at the 2009 Genesis PPV. Foley beat Sting at that year's Lockdown event to win his first TNA World Heavyweight Championship, eventually losing it at Slammiversary 2 months later. However, this wasn't the only gold that the former WWE Tag Team Champion won in TNA, as he beat Kevin Nash in the 200th episode of Impact to win the Legends title, only to lose it to the Silver Fox the very next month. He continued his association with the Orlando-based promotion before calling it quits in 2011. Back to WWE as an on-screen authority figure. 2011 saw Foley reassociating himself with WWE and sporadically appearing in his various shows through 2016, when he was named the Raw General Manager. One of the memorable instances during this tenure was the introduction of the WWE Universal title that Finn Balor won. Foley played a babyface GM, and his decisions were popular among fans and were not so pleasing for the heel. It seemed that the former ECW wrestler would continue as the authority figure of Raw for a long time. However, after an on-screen disagreement with Stephanie McMahon and a physical altercation with her husband Triple H, Foley was relieved of his duty by McMahon in March 2017. Marvelous verdict. It's not easy to leave one's mark in an industry that sees the influx of many wrestlers each year. In fact, it's easier to get lost behind the huge competition than to make a name for oneself. It becomes all the more difficult if you are not exactly an astute performer between the ropes. That's what makes Mick Foley's success in the squared circle all the more impressive. Despite not possessing many qualities associated with an ideal performer, he succeeded in his wrestling career due to his sheer will and ability to break the barriers every time. A true pioneer of the business indeed.